Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
It's Like-Minded Faith again.
Like-minded.
Yeah, we're like-minded.
We are. We hope that you're going to become like-minded too.
Yes.
Like-minded too. Let's see. I wanted to just bring this up in terms of. This is from Luke chapter 1, verse 52. He has put down the mighty from their thrones and exalted the lowly. Now, this is more evangelical garbage. That lowly, what does that mean? So, what we do, what I do is I get on the Google. I prefer MSN.com to go look it up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to MSN.com. I'm going to type in Bible Hub. Maybe I'll just do that. Type in Bible Hub. And you can do it if you have your computer or if you have it. Okay. And then it's going to, it just says Bible Hub, search, read, study the Bible. Click that. And then up at the top, it says GEN, because Genesis. And then it has all these books. So you want to go to Luke. And you got to scroll down a lot. Find Luke. And punch the thing. And it says Luke 1:1. But you want to go to Luke 1:55. So there's the caret. That's what they call those things. Those little things.
It looks like a check mark, but...
Except it's turned an arrow. Just the arrowhead without
down.
the body. Arrow down. And then you want to go... It has Luke 1:52. And then you want to go across in the black, because it says Bible Hub, NIV, and then there's a black, and you can put your finger on it and scroll it over, I guess. I don't know the terminology, really. And it says Greek. And then it comes along, and it says, in the Greek, he has brought down rulers from thrones and exalted the humble. And the New King James says lowly.
Okay.
So that's a mysterious word.
Humble?
Humble. No one knows what humble means. I mean, I'm not kidding. You go to look at humble, and humble means, and this is lowly. What does that mean?
Well, the Asian culture, they go, and I would
Lowly means...
that they would
Lowly means
be
you're unskilled. Lowly means you don't have any money. Lowly means you don't have authority. Okay.
Humble maybe.
And they used to say, again, more evangelical nonsense is from the humble side of the tracks, where the poor people are. So if you're poor, then you're humble.
Yeah, when we grew up, I lived on the upper of the boulevard or the lower.
That's right. They had the boulevard, Whittier Boulevard, upper boulevard, lower boulevard. And if you went down farther, they had railroad tracks. Okay.
Yeah.
And you click on that word, and then it says some, and then you click on some, because you always click on some because it gives you more information.
Right.
And I am not going to pronounce the the Greek word.
The Greek word of it.
No, I'm not.
They're so good at it.
So this says helps word studies. And this is from the Discovery Bible. In fact, it says copyright 2021 Discovery Bible, which if you've never clicked on that blue, after you read this, you should click on the blue, because there are people who, they are the super geniuses of language. We have the video gifts, and gifts.
Right.
And we say
that's their gifting.
That's their gifting.
Right.
Right. Just like Russell Wilson, Brett Favre, Yo-Yo Ma, the Three Tenors, Albert Einstein.
Right.
Gifted. They're gifted. And here's what they say. This is humility. Now, which has nothing, zero to do with money. It has nothing to do with your position. It says, listen to what it says. It says, describing the person who depends on the Lord rather than himself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I like that.
So,
like that.
if David, we could say David was a humble man because he was depending on the Lord rather than himself.
Mm-hmm.
Solomon, in all his riches, in the beginning said, I'm going to depend on the Lord rather than myself.
In other words, trust is a must.
Right. I'm going to depend on the Lord rather than myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't thinking about it, but that has to do with the topic today. Depending on the Lord rather than yourself, you know, we all quote Proverbs 3, 5, and 6,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, but they have those scriptures, some trust in chariots and horses, right?
Right.
Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord,
Right.
right? That there are people out there, and I go along with this psalm. It says, for he who is mighty has done great things for me, and holy is his name. Okay. How about this? And his mercy is on those who fear him from generation to generation. And he has shown strength with his arm, and he has scattered the proud in the imagination of their hearts. How about that?
Wow.
And another word to go along with that is vain imagination. So we have trust in the Lord
Mm-hmm.
and lean not on your understanding,
Right.
but there is an understanding to understand
Understand.
from God.
Mm-hmm.
From God. Okay? And so when we have an understanding from God,
Mm-hmm.
that's we're being humble,
Wow.
right?
Okay.
Because
Alright.
that's what it says. It says, here, you open it up. When we trust in God,
Then, and when we depend on
read
Yeah.
that one, means being God reliant rather than self reliant.
God reliant.
And it even says 1 Peter 5:6, which ironically, why don't you look that up? 1 Peter 5:6 exalts a person and brings their true worth of their reliance on God, right? So we want to look at that. I'm not sure of the title for this video, but really it has to do with leadership. 1 Peter 5:6. Got it?
Okay, just a minute. I'm there. I'm getting there.
I'm there, man, by faith.
Yeah.
I might not
By
be there
faith.
in the reality, but I'm there by faith.
Okay.
Okay,
1 Peter. Oh, that's
5.
James.
6, you're right there. Oh, right there. 1 Peter 5. 5. You're in.
1.
Is there even a chapter 5 in 1 Peter 5?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It says 5, 5, 6. Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, then he may exalt you in due time.
I don't know if that word humble, we could look it up, but if it's the same word, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, be more reliant on God under the mighty hand of God. And then he says you'll get a promotion.
You want a promotion. That's,
So you want to learn, this can
Yeah.
be learned,
Mhm.
learn to follow the voice of God, learn to follow the word of God,
Mhm.
and in due season he will promote you, which would be like the story of David.
Right.
So we want to talk about leadership. My prophetic view of leadership, and it starts with Genesis 12:4.
Yeah.
We don't have bookmarks.
Okay. Oh, we don't. It's time,
No,
do we?
Genesis 12:4.
Genesis 12:4.
Right.
Okay, here, around 7. 12:4. It says, so Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken to him.
Stop right there. Okay, so
Right.
God comes to Abraham and tells him some stuff. He says, Genesis, get out of your country, right?
Right.
And then Genesis 12:4 says he got out.
Right.
So God comes, leadership. Abraham is the father of our faith, the father. He's the big one, and God comes and God speaks to him, and then Abraham does what God says. 12:4. How about Genesis 12:7?
12:7.
Yeah, 12. We're in the same.
Okay. It says, "Then the Lord appeared to Abraham and said, 'To your descendants I will give this land.' And there he built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him."
So again, I brought this up before that, and Abraham traveled to the land that God showed him, and, and the covenant of Abraham has to do with land. I'm going to give you land.
As
land.
Inheritance.
Land.
Okay.
I'm going to give you land. Okay. So this, we were in here. I got 3 Bibles now. This says Luke 1:46, and it says, "As he spoke to our fathers, to Abraham and his seed forever."
Okay.
Saying, one is why is in this covenant here? Because we have Abraham's covenant. Then we have Moses' covenant, right? David's covenant. Why are they referring to the Abrahamic covenant when we have these other covenants all at the same time? So that would cause us to be, if we're rational, to understand that the covenants can be around, multiple covenants can be around at the same time. So we have the Abrahamic covenant, we have the Mosaic covenant, and the Davidic covenant. And here, time, again, I'll say it again, time determines the context. So we haven't gotten really in, even though it says New Testament, this is not really the New Testament. And she's saying, and he spoke to our fathers, to Abraham, and he said his seed forever, meaning, and so part of, if we had never get to Acts chapter 1, okay, that we would go, because we are part of the seed of Abraham, we would actually go to Israel and say, where's our property? Because we're part of the seed of Abraham.
So we would.
To the seed of Abraham, you just read, he will give this land. Didn't you read that?
Oh, yes.
Read it again.
Yes.
12:7.
12:7. It says, "Then the Lord appeared to Abraham and said, 'To your descendants,'" which is
Us. That's us.
"I will give you this land."
This land.
It didn't say what.
Well,
I would
okay,
gather the
so-
land of Israel.
And that's the promised land. The land that he said, I'm going to give you the land. So Joshua went into the land at a whole. It's like Joshua chapter 3 or something, Jericho. And then continued up until, I don't know, it was like Joshua chapter 14. Then he began to allocate land to persons. I'm going to give this land to this tribe. And then the tribe said, surely you get this house on the corner.
Right.
And Tom, you get the house over there.
Right.
So, but we go into the book of Acts. It's okay. 1:8, because Acts 1:8 and Matthew, you don't have to turn, 28:19. It says goes to the ends of the world. Or Matthew 28:19 says, now I'm going to send out my descendants of Abraham.
Right.
To the whole earth.
Oh. Wow.
That's what it says. Matthew 28:19, Acts 1:8. I'm going to send you out to the whole earth.
Right.
And you have property waiting for you to find.
Wow.
And so that's how we got this property.
That's right. God gave this house.
God gave us this property that we're sitting in now in Redmond.
That's right.
Okay, so you have to figure out where's your property in the whole world. So as opposed to if we were really descendants, back then, and the only property that God said, this land is your land, right? We would all go to Israel and say, I want my property.
That's cut out.
Where's my piece?
Right.
But now he's expanded that to the whole world, all right? And he said here. So, now we're going to go, again, we're talking about leadership. And part of leadership is he heard a word, instruction. And the other part is where we want to start, according to this Dr. Eberly. You know,
Right.
he says it's important to where we start.
Okay.
And we're going to start with free will.
Okay.
That Adam and Eve had free will, and that's why they did what they did. God was not sovereign there. Cain and Abel, free will. So Noah had the ability to tell God when God said, in order for you to save your family, you need to do something.
Right.
Right. Build a boat.
Right.
And if Noah didn't build a boat,
Uh-huh.
because free will,
Right.
his family, him and his family would have all perished.
Oh.
Free will. He was not a robot. Are you a robot out there? I'm not a robot. Are you a
No.
robot?
No.
I'm going to show, like when you pay for something, you know, on the internet, you buy something, and it says, are you a robot?
Oh
Right?
yeah.
It
yeah.
says that.
Yes.
Right? Are you a robot? Do you have free will? Yes. Then you cannot say God is sovereign and in control all the time because you have free will. See, it's important to where you start. We're going to start with Adam and Eve had free will to not only do sin to God, do bad things, all right,
Go
but to
against his
lie,
will.
to actually lie to God
Right.
because Adam blamed her and Eve blamed him.
Right.
Right. So, and God's just shaking his head going, I know the truth. Right?
Right.
And so Abraham came and he had free will or not to build a boat and save his family.
Right.
Right? And so we know that he did what he did. Okay, so in Exodus, you could turn to Exodus 4:18 through 20. Genesis, Exodus, 3:8. 3:8. What time did we start? I don't know, 12:15. There I am again. One of these days, I'll get it right. But until then, we'll just keep working. So he says, God comes down and says, so I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptian and bring them up to the land of large enemy. Now therefore, I have heard the cry of the children of Israel come before me. I have seen the oppression. Now, to me, this is really interesting because he did not save them from the oppression of Pharaoh. Do you understand?
Right.
He's waiting for them to cry out. See, I've seen the oppression who are, right? And I've heard their cry and I know their sorrows. So they're under oppression, they have sorrows. God allowed all that to happen, all right? And all right. Now therefore, behold, what am I reading? Okay. So then he says to Moses, I'm going to send you. That's what he says. I'm going to send you.
Okay.
All right?
Right.
And Moses could have said, in fact, there's places here where he says, I'm not going to go.
Right.
Right?
He was kind of, I don't know if I want to do this. Because I'm not of good speech and who, me, God?
Right. What he has excuses.
Yeah.
He has excuses,
Who, me?
right?
Right.
And he's going to send Moses.
Mm-hmm.
What's your say? 4:18 through 20.
4:18?
Mhm.
Oh, 18. Okay. I thought it was 8.
Well, no, maybe it's 8. Why did they put 18? I don't know.
Well, 8 says it'll be if they do not believe you nor heed the message of the first sign. So maybe it's 18. So Moses went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, is that the one?
I guess so. This is Exodus 4:12, and Moses said,
4:12.
"Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what to say."
Yeah.
But he said, "O Lord, please send by the hand of whoever else you may send."
Mm-hmm.
So Moses is exercising his free will to say, "I'm not going."
So you're showing us all the places where they had free will.
Free will, right. God could have went to Egypt all by himself. See,
Right.
God could have, appeared over Israel
Mm-hmm. Right.
and said, this is my land. Stay out. Instead, he went to a human being and gave the human being instruction and saying, instruction, go. And then
Right.
Abraham did it.
Right.
God went to Noah
Uh-huh.
as a human being and said, if you want me to do this and save you, if you want me to do this, and we're going to see this, you need to follow my instructions. And if you follow my instructions, I'll do what I said I do, but you need to build a boat. All right?
Right.
So here's God again saying, I want to deliver these people. He goes to a human being. He gives them instruction here. All right? So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. All right?
Mm-hmm.
All right? And finally Moses decides, I'm going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because he felt the anger of the Lord.
Yeah.
Ooh. Well, which is why we need to fear the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Because the anger of the Lord, and it's just a bunch of junk and garbage and charismatic nonsense that we think that because we live in a New Testament and they tell you it's the covenant of grace. Grace is there. I'm going to tell you it's there.
Mm-hmm.
See, look at all the scriptures about grace. Grace and peace be multiplied.
Yeah.
We have an abundance of grace. Grace for grace.
Right.
We have a covenant and it has grace. But if we do not do what God instructs us to do, we will not see what God has said is going to happen. That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
And I'm talking about leadership.
Okay.
So we have Abraham, we have Noah, he's a leader of the family. We have Moses, he's a leader. God comes to him and he's learning. God says to him, I need you to go to Egypt.
Okay.
And Moses finally says, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to Egypt.
Right.
Because he wants to see God deliver the people.
Right.
Okay. So then go to Exodus 7:14.
7:14.
Well, Exodus actually 7:6. And this is about the plagues. I'm going to use, some of you may not understand this, but I'm going to use the plagues as a learning tool.
Okay.
Because God is going to come to, so what's Exodus 7:6 say?
Then Moses and Aaron did so, just as the Lord
6?
commanded. 7:6.
Yeah.
7:6.
Okay.
6. And Moses and Aaron did so, just as the Lord commanded them. So they did.
So this is saying, let me see. First plague's down on verse 14. So what's that saying is that God connected Moses with Aaron, and they said, go to Egypt
Right.
to see deliverance.
Right.
Because God could have worked deliverance in a sovereign way, but he said, I want to use people.
He wants to use people.
And if the people want to see
Right.
what God is going to do, then they need to do what God told them.
Okay.
This is leadership training.
Right.
Okay. And so what's 9 and 10 say?
9 and 10.
Uh-huh.
It says, here, when Pharaoh speaks to you, saying, show a miracle for yourselves, then you shall say to Aaron, take your rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and let it be a serpent.
Okay. So he's saying, all right, I have your rod, and if you want me to turn it into a snake, then you need to take the stick and throw it down.
Right.
But he could have just made the snakes anyway without the rod. But he's
Right.
giving human being the instruction and saying, if you want to see me do stuff, then you got to do stuff.
Again,
All right.
this is what he must do.
Yes.
He should do if he wants
Right.
to see that miracle.
So what's Exodus 7:15 say? And this is the first plague.
It's up here. Okay, 7:15.
Uh-huh.
Go to Pharaoh in the morning, when he goes out of his out to the water, and you shall stand by the river bank to meet him. And the rod which is turned into a serpent you shall take into your hand. And you shall say to him, the Lord of the Hebrews has
So
sent you."
basically, God is telling Aaron, I'm going to do something,
Again.
right? I'm going to do something,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And in order for you, the human being, to see me do something,
Right.
you have to go, I'm going to give you these instructions.
Right.
And if you want to see me do something,
Mhm.
then you need to follow this
Again,
instructions.
instruction
Right.
to meet him with the rod and strike.
Read this one here.
Here.
Then the Lord spoke to Moses, say to Aaron.
Take your rod and stretch it out your hand over the waters of Egypt.
And they may become blood.
Right.
But again, God could have just turned the waters to blood without any, but he says to the human, I'm going to turn the water to blood, which is a real significant thing, right? But in order for me to do that, the human being has got to hear what God
Hear
says,
what he says.
and do. Right.
And
this
he wants
is
to instruct him.
this is leadership training.
Okay.
Okay, so now go down to verse 20,
Verse 20.
which is somewhere right here.
And Moses and Aaron did so,
Just as the
just
Lord,
as the Lord's command.
right. So they heard the Lord said, I'm going to turn it to blood, but I'm only going to turn it to blood if you act on my word.
I see.
And verse 20 says they did it.
Mm-hmm. Just
And
as he
so,
commanded.
right, just as he commanded. And so God did what he did.
Right.
So leaders, if you're a leader, you should be hearing from God and acting on the word and seeing God do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Right.
Okay, so Exodus 8:5.
8:5 over
Mhm.
here. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, say to Aaron, stretch out your hand with your rod over the streams, over the rivers and over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up.
So here's
On
the
the
second
land.
plague, frogs.
Right.
He says, I want to make frogs pop up everywhere, right?
Mhm.
So why couldn't they have just said, okay, we're just going to hang out. God do it. God could have done it all by himself. But again,
Well, if he instructed them to say, just say.
no, I'm just saying God could have done it all by himself. But
Right.
instead he said to the earth person, to the human being
This
earth
is-
person,
I'll give you instruction.
of how to make this happen,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Such as lay hands on the sick
Right.
and the sick will recover.
That's our instruction.
Right. That's our instruction. If we want to see, so God says, I'm going to cause frogs, but I'm only going to cause frogs if the human being does what I tell him to do. I'm going to give him a divine strategy, to which trust is a must,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So when they first did it, I think you would have probably been nervous, whatever.
Yeah, at first you would have been nervous, but then you see it happen, then you'll build confidence.
And then there's a
along
second
the
time
way.
he gives them some other stuff.
I'm sure he
Take the-
built confidence.
Take the rod, stretch it out, and then if you want it, I'm going to make frogs happen. Human
Hey,
being.
now,
Okay,
just-
all right.
Hmm?
So this is for leaders. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to go through all of this. I'll just kind of read. Exodus 8:6. Okay, the snake thing was Aaron.
Uh-huh.
The first plague was Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
The second plague was Aaron. Plagues 3 and 4, he actually tells him, I'm the Lord, and I'm going to go do this.
Oh, he took his sovereignty. and-
Well, he said, he came to them and said, I'm going to cause this to happen. But what's interesting is, before he said he was going to do it, he informed the human beings.
Oh, this is what I'm going to do.
This is what I'm going to do.
And I don't need you this time, but
Right. You could go to 8:16.
8:16,
Yeah.
it says right here. So the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, stretch out your rod.
Oh, maybe here. Okay, never mind.
Mm-hmm.
How about 8:23?
8:23.
So again, we could say there, so the Lord said to Aaron, right? Stretch out your rod, human being.
Right.
If you do what I tell you to do, I'll do this. So what I'm really trying to say is I'm trying to get out there that the Lord is not sovereign and in control of everything.
I see.
Because those people had free will, just like Moses did, to say, I'm not doing it?
Well, it says here, back here, I am the Lord in the midst of the land. I will make a difference between my people and your people.
8:23. Is that 23? Right. Okay. Okay, that's 8:20. So then, okay, go to 9:2. 9:2. This is the fifth plague.
9:2.
Mhm.
It says, for if you refuse to let them go and still hold on, behold, the hand of the Lord will be on your cattle in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels,
See,
on the oxen, and the sheep.
the hand of God will be on. He's just going to do it. They don't need to do anything.
Very severe
But
pestilence.
he's saying, I'm going to do this.
He's
But
gonna-
notice how he informed the human beings first of what they could do, so when it happened, they could say, that's God. God did it.
Yeah,
Okay.
because God told us.
Now, what's kind of interesting here is also in Exodus 8:23, he says, no, you don't, it's because
Okay,
we're going backwards.
okay.
He said, I'm going to make a difference between
Right.
Egypt and those guys.
Hmm.
And in Exodus 9, he says, I'm going to make a difference.
Right.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So,
It says right here, and the Lord will make a difference.
right. So there should be a difference.
Uh-huh.
So if we went through COVID,
Hmm.
we, the people of God, if we did stuff,
Right.
we would be protected because they were protected from the plagues,
Yes, amen.
right?
That's a good
There would be a
news.
difference there should be a difference in our world, a difference between the people of God and the non-people of God.
Right.
Okay. So go to 10:4. 10:4, good buddy?
10:4, 10:4,
Right.
yes.
Trucker language.
It says, or else, if you refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your territory.
So what's 10:12 say?
10:12 says, then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand, over the land of Egypt, for the locusts.
See,
that they
now
may-"
he says, stretch out your hand, not your rod.
Right.
So again, there's a strategy. It's not the same strategy. All right. Let's see. Turn back to 9:8. What did we read 9:8?
I don't remember. 9:8. So the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, take yourselves handfuls of ashes.
So here
from
here
the
he
furnace."
here he says, I'm giving you instruction.
Mhm.
It's 9:8 is boils. All right.
Right.
But notice how he says to both of them. He says talks to both of them. He says take some dirt. So how is throwing dirt in the air going to bring a plague of boils? It's not. There's no logical thing that you can connect the two. But he says, if you want to see me plague the Egyptians with boils, then you as human beings, you've got to do something. So, if you're a preacher and you're a leader in the church, you need to be hearing the voice of God if you want to see stuff, and he's going to tell you what to do. And as you do what he tells you, then God moves.
Right.
It's not God just being sovereign, as in the case of the flood.
I see.
But what was interesting in the case of the flood, the judgment, he did come to Noah, who was a righteous man, and said, if you want to save yourself, then you need to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't just bring the flood and kill everybody.
Uh-huh. I see.
He brought instruction. Okay, so and part of that too is, one is he stretched his rod, one is he said grab some dust, one of the things he said. So, if you were ministering to someone,
Right.
the Lord might tell you not to put your hand on them.
Yeah.
The Lord might tell you to put your hand on them.
Yeah.
The Lord might tell you to put your hand on their stomach or their head or their arm,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Right? And then give you words to say.
Right.
New Testament. See, God is telling us stuff. If we want to see the healing manifest,
Mm-hmm. Right.
just like they did,
So that's my trouble, is to differentiate and try to hear his voice tell me this is what you do.
I don't know.
Right.
One of the things I do is if it just keeps coming back.
Oh, repeats itself.
Right.
Okay.
So you might be praying over someone and I hear the voice of the Lord because we don't want to speak at the same time.
Right.
Right. So I hear it and then I'm listening to you pray because I want to be in agreement with whatever you're saying.
Uh-huh.
And then when she stops, that thing will come back.
I see.
And I'm thinking, I don't want to say that.
Sometimes you don't.
And then it'll come back again. So by the time it comes back the third time,
Mm-hmm.
I'll go, that might be God.
Okay.
And then I ask it in the form of a question.
Mm-hmm.
And you could use the new charismatic word of, does that resonate with you?
Right. Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Or did you have a traumatic problem when you were 9?
Yeah.
Just saying.
Right.
Okay, so now let's go to Exodus 12.
Mm-hmm.
12 is government,
Mm-hmm.
all right? What's 12:6 say?
12:6. I have to go
Mhm.
back a page. 12:6
Mhm.
says, "Now you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation
So
of
this-
Israel shall kill it at
What I'm going to say is this. 12 is the number of government,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And this is the first time, I think, in the whole Bible that the word congregation is used.
The whole assembly of the congregation.
Right.
The whole assembly.
Because none of these other plagues,
Mm-hmm.
the congregation, they didn't have to do anything.
True.
See, so when God said, I'm going to protect them
Uh-huh.
and make a difference between the people
Uh-huh.
or their stuff,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have to do anything.
Okay.
But here, in the government,
Right.
he uses the word congregation. So now the leader is speaking instruction to the congregation.
Uh-huh.
God is saying, here's my leader. He's learned that I'm going to tell him stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as he speaks and does the stuff, I do stuff.
Okay.
See that? That's not sovereignty.
Right.
That's free will. Really, we'll go back to the word humble,
Mm-hmm.
which says, the word humble says, what does it say? Being dependent on God.
Right.
So we're looking here that means
Means being God reliant rather than self.
describing the person who depends on the Lord rather than himself, meaning God reliant rather than self reliant. Okay, so to do any of these other 9 plagues, do you think Moses or Aaron had to rely on God to see it?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
They had to rely on God, and we're trying to rely on God
To
to
get
do YouTube.
right, to get the instructions.
To do the YouTube. We're trying to rely on God to give us the subject. We're trying to rely on God to give us revelation.
That's
We're
true.
trying to rely on God as we edit it, right?
You mean you didn't have this all
Well, I
planned
had
out?
part of it. And I
Part
was
of
going to
it?
go over this in really detail, but I just thought for the sake of time,
True.
it's just too detailed.
Okay.
I'm saving her.
Okay.
But you can go over this and think he's a human being. He's free will.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the one place he did exercise his free will, right? Because he said, can't you find someone else?
Yes.
And the Lord, anger moved against him. And then he decided, okay, I'm going.
Oh, yeah, I'm going.
I'm going.
Yeah.
And one of the things is he said, I'm going to go, but I need my brother Aaron.
He's
Right?
able to negotiate with God.
Right? And God already said, I've already talked to Aaron and he's going to meet you.
So he knew that he was going to.
God knew that the guy was going to ask for some
Right.
help, and God already says, I already got that covered. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
That if you go, well, I'm going to need this, God says, I got that covered.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need this.
Well,
I got
he
that
didn't.
covered.
He didn't say, "Oh, you weakling, you could do it." You know.
Right, he said, right.
He says.
So, but this is the first place that the leadership, Moses, gets a download, and he tells the congregation that they, in order to protect themselves from the plague, they need to do something. All right?
So,
It's the first time the word congregation is used.
hmm
And we know that they said they had to take the blood
hmm
and cover it.
hmm
And if they did not take the blood and cover their house, the plague would have killed them too.
So they took the instructions
Well, I
very
meant that-
seriously.
I meant that's
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of the upcoming. They're saying that there was
But again,
a plague coming or something.
that's what they're saying. What I'm saying is that's not sovereign. Quit
Right.
saying and turn it off, and don't let people tell you that God is always in control. He is not. Just like here.
Mhm.
He gave to the congregation, and the congregation did what he said, and then God protected them.
But they had a choice to say, "I don't want to do that."
They had a choice to say, I don't want to do that. I don't want to believe that.
So
So here's the blood.
yeah, right there's the blood
Hold up the bread.
and the bread.
So you could say, I don't want to do that.
You
You could say, I don't want to believe that.
could say, "I don't want to believe that."
Right? Because you have
Right.
free will,
Right.
and you're not a robot.
That's right.
Right?
That's correct.
God gave.
You have
right?
choice.
You have choice.
Yes.
And you may not understand how the blood works or the bread works,
Mhm.
but you could just go, I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay.
I'm just going to do it.
Well, just be obedient, and it will go well with you with the blessing.
Well, the congregation. All right.
Uh-huh.
So this is leadership training, and you'll see this in starts with Abraham. God came to Abraham and said, "I want to give you the land. All right,
Uh-huh.
get out of your country." And Abraham did what God told him, and
Okay.
Abraham gave him the land. All right.
Right.
Okay. So God came to Moses and
Uh-huh.
said, "I'm going to deliver these people out from."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Moses went. Right,
Mhm.
the two of them,
Right.
and God began to give him instruction, a strategy.
Right.
Moses began to do the strategy,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And then God did it.
Yeah.
Okay, when you come to Exodus, the last plague,
Mhm.
okay, he said, now I have a word for the congregation. If the
Okay.
congregation wants to get blessed,
Mhm.
then the congregation needs to do this,
Mm.
right?
Right.
And that continues into the desert where we
Okay.
have,
Right. It
All right.
says the whole assembly,
right,
congregation
And
of
it's the-
Israel.
the first place that that word congregation is used.
Okay.
It's the first place that the word God gave to him, and then he's going to preach it to the congregation. And if the congregation wants to have God work it, right? So I think it's Exodus 16, all right? And so go to Exodus 16.
Okay.
So we see that in where they got water from the rock.
Mm-hmm.
We see meat,
Right.
and we see quail.
Right.
And
On
in
the
Exodus,
first
no,
day-
we want chapter 16.
Oh, chapter 16.
I don't know. It wasn't
Okay,
clear.
16.
Hold on. Okay, here, yeah, 27. So the context is this, that he's telling them, manna is going to come down from heaven. I went to God. God gave me a word. I preached it to the congregation, right? And one of the important things is, until we get to Exodus 19, Exodus 19 is a hallmark place of written word. Before Exodus 19, there was no written word.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they had no written word to say, tomorrow on my own, I could talk to a rock.
It was all word of mouth.
It's all word of mouth. All just downloads. So where was I?
It's right here.
Okay. Okay, now read that.
Now it happened that some of the people went out on the seventh day to gather it.
The manna.
The manna. But they found none. And the Lord said to Moses, how long do you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws?
See, because they weren't, first off, they gathered the manna for 6 days.
Right.
And on the 6th day, you're supposed to gather twice as much because
he was instructing them, this is what you
to
do.
the congregation.
And because they probably before they had did that, and they didn't listen to him when they said to not gather, and it turned worms.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
That they didn't gather.
I know
this time.
there's a place in here, right? Mm-hmm.
So because they didn't listen to the Lord, and they didn't, and he said to gather, they didn't because they didn't want to have worms like they did last time when they didn't heed him.
There are some people
too.
who gathered because you were supposed to go out every day, provision
and provision,
right?
Gathering the manna and eating that.
This was teaching the people if they heard the word and the written word is coming,
right?
That God would provide supernatural provision.
Then he said to lay up yourself all that remains until morning at one time. And so they laid up till morning.
I was looking
and it stunk too, it said.
Well, I was trying to look where it says, I know it's one place in here where people went out, and because if you had a big family, you could gather a lot. If you had a little family, you just gathered a little. But if you had a little family and you just gathered a whole bunch,
just hoarded it,
the next day it rotted.
And it stunk, it said.
It said stunk. Because I'm just trying to show that this was not sovereign.
Right.
This is human beings hearing the word of God and acting out of their own either vain imagination, the imaginations of their heart, or their own free will.
Right. Right.
Okay?
That's correct. So God is not sovereign.
Right. He's not in control all the time.
All the time, because he gives us free will to make that choice, and sometimes we make wrong choices.
Okay, my wife is pointing out a watch. I have more to continue. But again, stop saying it, the Lord is in sovereign and the Lord is in control all the time. Because this shows us he is not.
Yes.
He is not. We have a logos to the congregation, to you out there. Because God is going to come down, Exodus 19, he's going to bring the 613 things, okay, and some of the promises of God, if like, honor your father and mother, because this is the first commandment with a promise that if you as a mere human do this, right?
Right.
You will have long life.
Right.
Things will go well with you.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we have promises like if you do this, this, and this, and this, things will go bad with you.
Right.
Right. So, see, and we are not robots. And we can have a choice of honoring our mother and our father. You honor your mother and your father even if they were bad mother and fathers.
So we are not robots.
We are not robots. And we have choices to the voices. Okay, and I had a bad father. And again, on his birthday, I sent him a present. On Father's Day, I sent him a gift. Okay? Even though he was bad. He was bad. See? So, this is part one. Leadership training. I don't know what the thumbnail is going to look like. I haven't got there yet.
He's going to have an iRobot on it.
Right. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to cover was that we know the story where they ran out of water a second time, right?
Right.
And God said a different strategy.
Or wine?
Water. Okay. And he said, speak to the rock instead of hitting the rock, right?
Yeah.
So Moses exercised his own free will, right?
Free will.
Right?
Yeah.
And he hit the rock anyway.
Right.
So was God sovereign and in charge of that? No, he was not.
No.
And there resulted in bad consequences.
That's right.
So, right. So
Anyway.
Again, quit saying it. It's when the people of God, I'll end with this. Someone a long time ago said, if you honor God, God will honor you. That's easy, right? If you honor God, God will honor you. So if you honor God in obeying His word, He'll honor you.
Yes.
He is not, and if we don't honor God and God in His word in terms of truth, see, He will not honor us in terms of changing our world. So in that regard, these nonsensian people who say God is in control, He's only in control if we put Him in control. By honoring His word, and part of His word says that, I'm going to go here. This says, okay, and He spoke to our fathers, to Abraham the seed forever, that we are the children. This is Luke chapter 1, verse 55. And Psalms 103:20 says that He sends His angels to heed the voice of His word. So here's what it says. All right. He says He's scattered the proud in their imagination of their heart. So we can send angels out who will heed His word. So we're going to send angels out to scatter the proud in the imagination of their hearts. He says He's put down the mighty from their thrones. We're going to send angels out right now, according to His word, that are going to pull down the mighty from their thrones. He has exalted those people who depend upon God. That's verse 52. He has filled the hungry with good things, and the rich He has sent away empty. Okay? And He has helped the servant of Israel and remembered His mercy. All right. So we're sending these angels out in Jesus' name. Hallelujah. And they will come upon the earth, and they will show His strength, scatter the proud in the imagination of their heart. Goodbye Biden, goodbye Pelosi, goodbye Schiff, goodbye Schumer, goodbye that other legislative idiot that's in California who dated the Chinese spy lady. Goodbye. He's put down. Goodbye Inslee. Goodbye to all the Democrats in the Washington House of Representatives. Goodbye to those people in the Senate. We send angels out right now to obey His word, which we can do because we are the seed of Abraham. Say goodbye.
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 Goodbye. It's time to say goodbye.
And start to look forward to God restoring this state back into the atmosphere of the righteousness of the seed of Abraham.
Amen.
So in that, it's your turn to say, now remember.
Now remember, what do we remember?
To like, subscribe, and share.
Good job.
And then you're supposed to say, see, I trained him.
See, I trained him.
So try it again. Now say, now remember.
Now remember.
Like, subscribe, and share.
Oh, wow. See how I trained him.
See? Say goodbye.
So goodbye.
Goodbye now.
Goodbye for now.